to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome in. Tuesday, February 18th. Jason Moore, Mike Wright, Andy Holloway. It's the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Happy to be with you. All of you listening, all of you watching the show over on youtube.com/thefantasyfootballers.
Jay with a yoo-hoo wave over there.
Welcome to YouTube.
A little bit frightening.
Yoo-hoo.
We got a great show for you today. We're going to do some rookie review, and I'll be curious, gentlemen, which rookies you think will be elite sophomore options for fantasy football players. So we'll walk through the positions. We'll keep it brief, but I do want to know if you fell in love with one or two of these players in each position that whether they performed in their rookie season or not, you think, brighter days are ahead.
Yeah. Joe Milton III.
They did talk about him getting traded.
Dude, he was awesome for one part of one game.
Week 18?
Yeah.
A reminder, the Ultimate Draft Kit available now, the pre-order that is, ultimatedraftkit.com, where you can get instant access to the Dynasty Pass, and you can learn all about the UDK and the Dynasty Pass at ultimatedraftkit.com. We have a special giveaway, a chance to win a Listener League spot. Come and play with us in 2025. It's also the lowest possible price you can get. So if you're going to get it eventually, get it now.
Yeah, if you're listening to the show, you're probably playing fantasy football this year, which means you're going to want the Ultimate Draft Kit. Cheapest price, get in our Listener League, have a chance at it. And all the Dynasty stuff, we're talking rookies today. The incoming rookies are outlined there. Team opportunities, a bunch of stuff is already up and available, even though the main thing launches on June 1st.
And the community, you can always find it at jointhefoot.com. We'd love to have you hop in there, become a part of the Foot Clan. We have a quick question of the day. It's an Instagram question written in by SDP Dub. Don't know what that means. What is the most important thing when it comes to starting a Dynasty League? So it is Dynasty season. We have a Dynasty podcast. Let's talk about Dynasty leagues.
Yeah, I mean, to me, if you're going to start a new Dynasty League, the most important thing is the league mates, the members of the league. This is something that you hope is around for, at least a decade. You're going to go through cycles and have rivalries, and you need active managers. When you have – it's not like a redraft league. A redraft league, you got your buddy Bill who really doesn't give two farts and whatever. Next year, he's like, yeah, I don't want to do it.
Poor Bill.
Well, I mean,
Bill needs to stop farting around.
All the Bills out there.
So I would just say have a group of people who are dedicated and love fantasy football. That's just going to make your league better. If you're a member of Join the Foot, you can go to footclanleagues.com, find someone to fill in. And I would just say to that point, all of the leagues we're in, they're 12-man leagues. Every league that I play in is a 12 at least. Our Listener League is even larger. But I would be happier to play in an 8-team Dynasty League with committed, a core group of 8 that I know is going to be around for a long time, and just make the rosters larger. Go
it's
triple
easier
flex.
To fix that.
Yeah, and then if you want to add, 2 more managers and turn it into a 10-team down the road, you can do fun expansion drafts. There's ways to get around that, as opposed to just filling it, being like, I've got to have 12 guys in this league or 12 people. So, it just doesn't – it's not going to be as fun.
Mike, do you have that Dynasty tip? That's a good one.
That is the most important thing. But if you're talking specifically about your startup draft, it's
screw them RBs. that's Mike's usual.
Yeah, that really is, especially old running backs. But it's don't overvalue youth in your dynasty draft. Don't reach for guys who they shouldn't be going in the second or third round. You're like, they're so young, so I'm going to have them on my team forever. You need to balance that. You do need to balance with some old guys, but generally speaking, in the first round, early on, I'm not drafting really any running backs, but like if you're going to get one, it has to be Bijan, Gibbs, guys who are just young. I'm like Saquon Barkley. Barkley's going to finish as a top 5, top 3 running back next year, assuming he plays all the games. But for how long?
I've got a more nuanced tip for dynasty leagues in terms of making them more entertaining and fun. If you can get the history documented for the league in whatever way possible, that's more fun as a dynasty league carries on. I think those stats are great, whatever it is, the most points scored in a season, the best record of all time. Obviously, you're going to know your champions, but there's a lot of different metrics, head-to-head matchups, rivalries. There are websites that will provide that for you. There's a lot of them out there. I think League Legacy is one of them, but there's several other ones. Those are best to get connected early when you start the league as opposed to trying to go back and figure out all of that information. So if you enjoy that side of it, to me, Dynasty is all about the longevity and the franchise history and building something special, and so opportunities to break records, to know records are coming up. I mean, that stuff's fun for me. And make sure you're on a platform or in an environment where communication is simple and easy, so you can be talking all year round, wherever that is, a Slack channel, maybe it's on Sleeper, whatever the case may be.
Talk that trash.
I'm not going to hit the drop, but I do have one piece of news. We're pre-recording this show. We're at FSGA in Las Vegas, the Fantasy Sports and Gaming Association Conference. So we're recording the show a little bit early, so there may be other big news that has broken, and we'll get to that on future episodes. The only thing that we haven't talked about on the show that did come out was a tandem bit of news about James Cook. First, it came out. He's looking to receive $15 million a year on the next contract.
That's the small news.
And then the next day, went on Instagram Live, pinned his own comment about $15 million a year, and then he removed the team from his profile.
We got him.
Scrub-a-dub-dub that profile.
We got him. The Bills know that James Cook is not messing around.
He means business. He got rid of – I mean, it worked for Kyler, right? This is stupid. It's so stupid.
Have we been checking Al Borland's profile to see if he's still listed as producer? Because I don't know if that's the negotiation tactic that
I feel like if someone did that here, we'd just let him go, right? Like I'm looking for a new contract. I'm going to take all mentions of the fantasy footballers, right?
If that's what you're saying,
no,
speed wise.
So for some context, obviously, contracts, they go up. But so Christian McCaffrey right now, he's an average of, 19 mil a year. And then the second highest average is Jonathan Taylor at 14.
Is James Cook worth $15 million a year? Even with that, even with the inflationary context?
It's really difficult because the question is of could James Cook be worth that? I think so, but the way that the Buffalo Bills use their running backs, especially now when they're like, no, we use 3 guys. We use Ty Johnson. We use Ray Davis. And so to have that amount of money into a position that things fall apart pretty fast.
They can justify it because they could say, well, we just pay an average of $6 million per each running back. $15 million goes to Cook, and then, $1 million to each of the other guys.
It's a weird offseason because you just saw the influence of a dynamic running back being added to an offense and the value of Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry and Josh Jacobs and doing
Saquon's average salary is $12.5 million. So I think 15 seems like a stretch. Looks like Derrick Henry's at $8 million.
Well, you don't start low.
Josh Jacobs is at $12 million.
You don't start low when you start pulling it off of the IG. Maybe he did send them a note and said, I want 15, and didn't get a reply. And
maybe they got a reply and it said, go ahead and remove Bills from your profile. Maybe this is not James Cook at all. He's like, I want 15 million. It's like, dude, just go ahead and scrub it.
I mean, it's crazy because we just talked about James Cook again on the last episode. and the 16 touchdowns. Like if there was ever a time to negotiate your contract,
Oh yeah,
after you scored two touchdowns, then you went to 16.
I mean, he's going into year 4, right?
He probably started asking for $1 million a touchdown.
I mean, on the back of this offseason where the big signings at running back made giant impacts for the rosters, took teams deep into the playoffs, won a Super Bowl, yeah, you start to say, look, running backs matter again. And, I'm the second best player on the Bills. You got to pay me accordingly. I don't mind him doing that. If you're a running back, try to get your money. You're not worth the running back market should not be giving $15 million to someone per year that's not a top 3 back in the league. And he's not a top 3 back.
He is currently the number 48 on the average salary
on the pay,
by running back. So this is I'd like to be paid appropriately. And I do believe a little bit in the rewarding the season when you play it like Brock Purdy, right? A bunch of years at no money. James Cook is going to be an unrestricted free agent in 2026, so this will be the final year of his deal. His base salary this year will be 5.1 in the final year of his deal.
I believe his brother threatened to hold out about the same timeline and then gave in and played on the contract, if memory serves.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens with James Cook. Apparently that'll be a storyline we get to enjoy all offseason long.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk some rookies.
Rookie review.
All right, we'll take a quick walk down memory lane, see what we got out of the rookies this year, position by position, and who we think can take a step forward in 2025. We'll begin with a player I know I feel like Jason is very confident in the future capabilities of Caleb Williams.
Is it confidence, or you're just hopeful because of Ben Johnson?
So I think it is more hope than confidence, but it's not. It's optimistic hope.
Okay.
In the sense that, like, there are times where you just didn't see enough from a player to believe. Rookie year, Bryce Young, it was very difficult to see the path for him. He just didn't have any success. He didn't show the flashes. Now he's gotten it together. I think now there's optimism in Carolina that Bryce Young's a thing. But last year with Caleb Williams, while he had some just abysmal games, his inability to get rid of the ball and stop taking sacks, but those are rookie mistakes. He also had really great moments, flashes of brilliance, showed kind of the special features he has, his arm strength and talent. And so you combine that with Ben Johnson coming in, and so I am optimistic that it's going to work out.
Finished as the quarterback 14, was drafted in the 9th round in fantasy leagues, and not what we hoped for or expected. You said flashes of brilliance. There were plays, there were moments, stuff that other quarterbacks that we've looked at in the rookie seasons never gave us. That is for sure. I don't know if I saw the complete game. Like, I would have loved to have seen one complete game where I felt like he was in control from the beginning of the first quarter through the fourth quarter. They won the game, and I said, hey, that's just something you need to start to repeat.
Oh, I agree completely. I mean, he had a couple games. So he had, from a fantasy standpoint, he had 5 top 6 fantasy finishes on the week. But even in some of those great games, the first half is like he had 33 yards. And then, they were getting blown out. He came back and had a great comeback and showed those. I agree with you. There was no consistency, and I don't think I saw a complete game, just front to back, open to close.
Yeah, I'm going to trust in Ben Johnson with you, Jason, I want good coaches and good offenses to put my players in on the path to success. But, man, Caleb looked brutal to me of just frantic, not seeing it looked like he could be easily confused. He has great arm talent, but I'm concerned.
The second rookie quarterback off the board in the 10th round who finished as the quarterback 4 on the year, Jaden Daniels,
I'm less concerned.
Yeah, I mean, this was awesome. I mean, it's the 7th most rushing attempts of all time as a rookie. Had an incredible season. Certainly seems like Washington is in safe hands for the near term at a minimum. You know, you never know what injury or something like that could derail a career, but you couldn't ask for a better situation top to bottom than what Washington is in right now. New ownership, a coach that had success. You know, you outperformed your expectations. Your rookie was more mature beyond his years, and you have a foundation to build upon. When you talk about fantasy football, I think it's not a debate that Jaden Daniels is 5 rungs ahead of every other rookie from this past year. The question is just, is he a perennial top 5 guy to you?
Yeah,
here on out.
He is. His nature of just being so unflappable. He doesn't rattle. When things go bad, he just gets up and he's got the same calm, cool demeanor that you see from successful NFL quarterbacks. Just didn't seem to tilt, and he usually has an answer. The fact that he has the superpower trump card with his legs, and that he's willing to scramble, and he's not afraid to use it. You know, it's like Kyler has that, but Kyler's terrified to use it. He doesn't, you know, it's like that's a break glass in case of emergency, whereas with Jaden Daniels, that's if you guys don't guard me right, I'm gone. And so for fantasy purposes, there's no fear. You could argue he should be the #1 quarterback drafted next year with, you know, an older Josh Allen and him coming into year 2, but he'll be in that top. He'll probably be the 3rd quarterback drafted, definitely be in the top 5.
Washington has the 3rd most cap available to them, because it's like, I mean, he did that with like Terry McLaurin. Like, Terry McLaurin's a great player, but Terry McLaurin's a little bit older, and like, if you can get,
you want to talk older, Zach Ertz.
Yeah, I mean, like, the pieces on this team, imagining that this team being really aggressive and going out and getting
T. Higgins.
If Higgins gets to market, or just, I'm saying something, a 1st-round wide receiver, a splash in free agency. They can make something happen here, and just a wild thing of Jaden Daniels, of like, his stock went up in a game that he did not play. Like, watching the Super Bowl and how Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs struggled against the Philadelphia Eagles, comparing that to the game that just happened where Jaden Daniels was just fine. You're like, that is really impressive season, and very optimistic for the future.
3rd overall pick, Drake May. 8th overall pick, Michael Penix Jr. 10th overall pick, J.J. McCarthy, who looks like will transition right into being the starter. I have my doubts that Sam Darnold is coming back. I mean, what would you handicap it at right now in Minnesota? I have it about 10%.
Man,
I've got it more like 66-33. I think they're going to give him
to return.
No, 66% that it's J.J. McCarthy, but I think there's a good chance they're going to let Sam Darnold test the open market. If there's a team out there, like let's say the Rams end up trading Stafford to the Jets, like, you know, you've seen some rumors out there, and then they want to go after a Darnold, and they'll probably pay more than Minnesota is willing to pay. But if Darnold doesn't find a good market, which he might not, a lot of these teams who need quarterbacks are going to be highly up in the draft. They're going to be drafting one.
Well, let's do the experiment. I think it'd be fun. AFC East, the only team that actually could use him, will never bring him in because he used to play for them.
Yeah.
The Jets, right? Because Drake May is secure.
They might be interested. I don't know if Darnold's interested.
They
just
be
can't do
interested.
it.
They couldn't. I mean, could you imagine if the
it's
New York Jets
unbelievable.
signed him and he comes back and he sucks?
Yeah, that you just can't do it.
I mean, it would just be
you can't
like,
bring a circus in, man.
you've got now the NFL has to regulate. You know,
so great.
do
Only the
what soccer does and have the teams go down.
Oh, relegate them?
Yeah.
The Raiders are the only team in the AFC West. They're definitely a contender for Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
Especially with Pete Carroll there. No time to waste.
There's
the AFC
gotta get
North.
to bed.
The AFC North, you'd have the Steelers or the Browns. Those would be two teams that could use a quarterback. And then for the South, you know, you're really looking at the Titans. Probably nobody else.
The Titans have such a high pick. I think if they're going after a quarterback, they should do it in the draft.
NFC-wise, you'd be talking about the Giants.
Yep.
Otherwise, no other team in the East. NFC West, probably it would be the Rams trading Stafford. That'd be it. NFC North, nobody. They're all set.
Right.
And then NFC South, Saints seem committed to Derek Carr. Panthers, no. They've already done the Darnold experiment as well. And the Falcons and Buccaneers have it figured out. So, yeah, I mean, let them test the waters, see if the Raiders write him a big check, and maybe he's got a chance to come back. But of those guys, May, Penix, McCarthy, and I'll throw Bo Nix in now, pick 12, amazing rookie season. If you were kind of putting those guys in order from a dynasty perspective, just based on what you saw as a rookie, limited work for Penix, May, nothing from McCarthy.
I mean, I've got Bo Nix ahead of Caleb Williams in Dynasty startup ranks. I would much rather have him. I'm sure of the system that's in place, and it just feels safe and secure with Sean Payton and what we saw from rookie year Bo Nix with, again, not a ton of weapons. I do think that Marvin Mims, hopefully Troy Franklin, they've got some good developmental prospects, but this wasn't, some elite core of wide receivers that he was inheriting. He got more out of Cortland Sutton than we've seen in years. The fact that he uses his legs, runs the system well, Bo Nix to me is obviously very safe. And from fantasy, for fantasy football, very safe because he runs. These other guys, Penix and Drake May.
Well, Drake May actually had 10 fewer rushing yards than Bo Nix.
Yeah, he ran well, but he didn't throw well. But he didn't have anybody to throw to.
The Patriots is a full rebuild, so it would be just do you feel like you saw enough composure and enough traits from Drake May that the future could look bright? Because they're very
I liked what I saw from Drake May.
I think they're slotted for, like a lot of mock drafts have T-Mac going there as the number one wide receiver off the board. So it's like factoring that in. The Patriots are going to do something. They're not just going to stand pat with the wide receivers that they have right now.
Yeah, I think Drake May might be the most slept on of this group in terms of, at least with McCarthy, you can paint the picture. Addison and Jefferson, Kevin O'Connell.
I'm bullish on McCarthy.
I mean, McCarthy should be able to, you can see the easy case for him coming in and being successful.
Yeah.
Michael Penix, we got to see enough of him. He's got weapons around him, great running game. You can see him being successful. Bo Nix, we saw have a good year. Drake May's sitting there in this, I don't want to be so afraid of the Patriots offense and system that we ignore what might be coming because of, like what you said, the draft capital is going to be there. They made a move at head coach after 1 year. And I think Drake May, he's a third pick in the draft.
Oh, and he definitely showed a lot of skill. Mike Vrabel, I believe, is a very good head coach, but I think he's a very good NFL head coach. He's not the type of head coach you're really, jonesing for in fantasy football. He's going to come in and make sure the defense plays better. Not just be a high-flying offense, especially with the personnel they have. He's going to, match how to win ball games with the personnel they have, and I don't know that they've got enough explosive power on offense. It was kind of like when Harbaugh went to the Chargers. That took nothing away from Justin Herbert's talent, but you knew he's probably not going to do as much for fantasy. I feel that same way here, not to take anything away from Drake May, the player or the talent, but I think Vrabel coming in is not going to be great for fantasy.
The wild thing for Drake May, so his end of season stats, just under 2,300 yards, 15 passing touchdowns. He appeared in 12 games. He pretty much played 10 full games. If you go look at the game log he didn't start at the beginning of the year, fills in a little bit at the end of week 3, then doesn't start 2 more times, and then you had week 8, 30% of the snaps, gets knocked out, doesn't play the last game. So in essentially 10 full games, he puts up those numbers of 2,315, and Caleb Williams threw 20 touchdowns in an entire season. So it's I think it would be foolish to overlook Drake May moving forward.
All right, we'll take a break and we'll come back and talk about the rookie running back performances. All right, let's talk rookie review at the running back position. This was a down year for rookie running backs. Fewest total touches and yards from scrimmage for rookie running backs over the last decade. It also happened to line up with a year where the aforementioned Henry and Saquon and Jacobs had monster years for teams. They
Such a weird year.
Did not find value in the draft. I mean,
one of the things in fantasy football that has been so consistent. I mean, it's literally been 12 years in a row, longer than we've been doing this show, and we've done it a decade. There are always 2 rookie running backs or more, sometimes many more, but at least 2 rookie running backs who finish in the top 24. And so this was the first year that said goodbye.
Yeah. 12-year run is
Bucky
over.
almost did it.
But the top 5 running backs drafted, they couldn't get on the field. I mean, Jonathan Brooks, we know the story.
Sad
Did
story.
you see and we got not an unexpected, but just they're being talked about in media of Jonathan Brooks is likely to miss most of, if not all of 2025.
It better be all.
It
better be all.
Yeah,
Don't bring him back at the end of a lost season to redo this.
When you re-tear your ACL, and it took so long to even get him on the field. So something was up with
what do you do with him in
ACL
Dynasty?
recovery.
Oh,
let's say you lost your rookie year, right? And let's just say he doesn't play a snap this year. So he's out.
Right.
He comes into his 3rd year after missing his first 2. Is he ever going to be handed the reins to be like, okay, you're the guy, you're our star running back?
If there's a way for you to box him up and put him in the attic for a couple of years for your fantasy team, I mean, you can't trade him for anything. So you're just you're lost.
Yeah, it's wild.
You made the pick and you're stuck. I mean, but it wasn't only him. I mean, the first 5 picks drafted, Jonathan Brooks got the injury, Trey Benson.
James Conner was awesome. Got an extension. Goodbye.
Yeah, I mean, Trey Benson's a good player. And if Conner gets hurt, which he does sometimes, Trey Benson's
a sensational backup, in my opinion. And look, when you're I guess just thinking of Dynasty, of the way that I look at it is it's hard to have 3 good starting running backs in Dynasty. If you have 2 where you're like every week, except for bye weeks, I know that these are my 2 starters, you're in an okay position. But then you got to have just a stable of backups because the NFL season is brutal and backups end up starting for you a lot. So this is not it's not the end of Trey Benson. He has value for fantasy.
I agree. I mean, I think
just not as a starter yet.
Connor, but to Jason's point, Connor is the leader. Connor got the contract. Trey Benson will be stuck in a role that no one likes for fantasy unless there's an injury. And then Blake Corum, same boat right now. Kyron's only 24 years old.
Kyron was awesome. If he gets an extension, goodbye.
The only thing that could disrupt something
in
Los Angeles would be, Cooper Kupp's going out the door. Does Stafford leave? Does that mean that your head coach, does he want that next quarterback project? Like the Sam Darnold? Is that why they might want to make that move to reset the clock? They've got a young defense. Or, and could that change the trajectory? I mean, I don't know. What's Kyron's contract situation?
He's going into year 4, so he's eligible, and he's in the final year of his deal.
Does he still follow the team on Instagram?
I've seen some whispers of an extension coming for Kyron.
That would be so great for Dynasty.
We saw 6 carries from Marshawn Lloyd. We basically saw no Marshawn Lloyd all year.
And Josh Jacobs was awesome.
And Jalen Wright, who, explosive, blew up the combine, made us kind of optimistic about his potential. Definitely ran at times ahead of Raheem Mostert, who was banged up all year. When you look at that group right there of those 5 names, you didn't see a ton of them on the field. And then the next man up in the 4th round was Bucky Irving. He was the star of the rookie class. 207 for 11, 22, and 8 as a rookie with 52 targets. 47 catches, a pretty stable offensive situation. I mean, he is the belle of the ball.
Yes. Oh, for sure. I mean, he's the only rookie that did finish inside the top 24 at the running back 15. The second half of the year, he was one of the best assets in fantasy football, and that was while Rachaad White was playing. Rachaad White didn't miss any games. It just became Bucky's team, and Rachaad White spells him a little bit more, and his quick burst was really on display this year. Every time that he had a little opening, he'd be 5 yards down the field before anyone could catch him. And despite being a small back, broke tackles. It's great. Usually, I am pounding the table based on historical analysis that 4th round and later draft picks at running back, when they have a great rookie season, they get worse the next year. That is like 82% true. So this is not like a small data sample. This always happens. Bucky will be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Bucky passed all tests. The team is invested in him. I don't think this is going to be a Dameon Pierce situation.
Well, and they don't need to do it. Like, Rachaad White is still on the team for a year, and Rachaad White has a role. Like, you don't need to replace that yet, where you don't have the concerns of them spending a pick on a running back who ends up being way better than maybe they drafted him to be. Kind of like Bucky taking the job from Rachaad White. I want to go back real quick to Jalen Wright, because it was a really disappointing year for rookie running backs. Jalen Wright might be the most disappointing to me of the Miami Dolphins. They traded a 2025 third to move up to go get Jalen Wright. He has the build, the speed, everything that the Miami Dolphins would want. He ends up with the fewest total yards from scrimmage of any rookie running back with 70 or more touches over the last decade.
It's not like he didn't have any touches.
Right.
He had 68 attempts on the ground.
And then add on top of that, look, yeah, Achan's the starter. Achan is not getting it done on the ground. Like, and then the other guy is Raheem Mostert. How was Jalen Wright not pulling a Bucky Irving and moving up the depth chart? That one was
talent.
Yeah, I mean, yes, sorry.
but you wouldn't say Achan's incapable either. I think
it's not that he's incapable, but he was really struggling on the ground, and the Miami Dolphins, to me, looked like, let's try something. Let's get a game of Jalen Wright. Let's see if we can get him going. But clearly the coaching staff saw him for it. Just they didn't think that he had the chance to do it.
I believe his higher carry games did coincide with the departure of a quarterback. So we know how dysfunctional they were without Tua. I'm just bringing it up because it's like if Achan struggled too. Look, I think it's fair. You should have seen more explosive plays from him, even if he wasn't great on every touch.
And we had such a pump fake of week 5. He's 13 for 86 on the ground, like incredibly efficient. That's 6.6 yards per carry. And then they go into the bye week, and it's like, the rookie running back got on the field, got opportunities. We're going into the bye week. Here we go. He's going to get a role, and then nope.
And Mostert's not getting any younger, so this team may need to pick another one up, which could be a problem. Impressive players beyond that, though. I mean, outside of Bucky, Tyrone Tracy, Ray Davis, undrafted for fantasy, 4th round pick for the Bills. And then Isaac Guerrero had some opportunities this year, but those 3 names, in that low percentage category of being good, Tracy seems like he'll have an opportunity in the future as a 5th round pick.
He does. Tyrone Tracy is more the Dameon Pierce to me, where it's like he looked very good. The team could say to themselves, "Hey, our running back, for this year is kind of solved. We're okay," and not worry about it. I think they will do that, but so did the Houston Texans did the same thing. They didn't go. They got Joe Mixon the year after. So like you had Dameon Pierce's rookie season, and then there was a lot of excitement for Dameon Pierce in his sophomore season. But when it didn't go right for Dameon Pierce, the team is not invested. They're not committed. They're going to just keep trying to figure it out. And so they stopped using Dameon Pierce. And then in the offseason, they're like, let's go get Joe Mixon. So this is one of those things where Tyrone Tracy, if weeks 1 through 4 of the 2025 season, he is, out there just making great plays, breaking tackles, looking awesome, great. He'll continue to get work. But as soon as it goes poorly for him, the team's just going to try to figure out something, and I think the whole franchise will look very different this offseason.
Yeah, they could use one of those ball throwers.
Mm-hmm.
The behind center.
I believe Aaron Rodgers is available.
Yeah, they could.
He's already in the area.
Yeah.
All right, wide receivers. Do you guys want to move on and talk about a brief overview here? Marvin Harrison was the number 1 off the board in the NFL draft.
Had such a disappointing fantasy football season. Really did. Crushed
For
you. It was a brutal.
expectations.
Yeah, I mean, this was a guy who was often drafted in the first round of, redraft leagues. And while he finished as the wide receiver 28 and had okay stats, 885 yards, 8 touchdowns, it wasn't a complete dud of a rookie wide receiver season, but based on expectations and fantasy football draft capital, an absolute disaster.
Lack of consistency was a killer for him. 7 games with a touchdown where he averaged 16.9 fantasy points per game in those. 10 games that he didn't score, 4.7 fantasy points per game.
Yeah, that ain't it.
And his, I mean, we watched the tape a lot, and it's always hard to really determine this.
Whose fault is it?
Yeah, I mean, is it the play calling? Because there were a lot of dumb routes where he'd run forever before Kyler ever had a chance to throw the ball. He's not even turning around. But there were also too many plays throughout the course of the season that I just saw a flat-out lack of effort. It just seemed like come back to the ball a little harder. Like it just seemed like he was
like the urgency was
playing
not
at
there.
80%.
This was one of those players where you felt like you saw not getting them involved early in the game coming back to haunt you. If you look at the numbers, 69% of his receptions came 10-plus yards down the field, where the players we saw have explosive rookie seasons, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., those were all 43, 48%. You didn't get Harrison those easy catches to keep him involved in the game. Now,
Right.
I'm not you can put the blame on him too. Obviously, you should be given effort on every play. But we know how wide receivers are. If you're not really a part of the game plan, if you seem like if every week the coach and the offensive coordinator in the press conference have to explain why you weren't involved again, there's a breakdown.
Yeah.
Like, this is the guy you brought in to be your dominator, and you're not throwing him an easy slant route or a screen pass or getting him involved so that you don't have games without a touchdown being 4.7 fantasy points per game. That's what we saw on a weekly basis. And that was depressing. So from a fantasy forecast perspective, it's really, really hard to have the same kind of dynasty excitement for Harrison Jr. as you would Neighbors and Brian Thomas.
Yeah, that makes
and
it so much worse.
Even Xavier Worthy.
Or Lad McConkey.
Right.
Next year, it'll be really interesting to see where Marvin Harrison Jr. goes. I believe
I'm looking at it. Best ball right now, wide receiver 18 at the end of the third.
There's upside there.
There is upside. As a reminder, Marvin Harrison Sr., 64 catches in his rookie season. Marvin Harrison Jr., 63 catches. Marvin Harrison Sr., 836 yards. Marvin Harrison Jr., 885 yards. And Marvin Harrison Sr., 8 touchdowns. Jr., 8 touchdowns. So they had almost identical stats. Obviously,
check this one out, though. Marvin Harrison Jr., 62 for 885 and 8. Malik Neighbors, 109 for 1204 and 7 on 170 targets.
170 targets as a rook. Wow.
But Malik Neighbors will need to navigate new quarterback. He was quick to give Matthew Stafford his flowers over the Super Bowl weekend and talk about the kind of quarterback he wants to bring into New York. And, New York is talking to Shedeur Sanders. And
how great is Brian Thomas Jr.? I only say that because you talk about the quarterback play of Malik Neighbors. It was bad. But Brian Thomas Jr. It played his best ball with Mac Jones. It's not like it's that much different
Malik
than Daniel
Neighbors
Jones.
would have loved Mac Jones.
He had Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is better than Mac Jones.
Malik Neighbors with Daniel Jones,
was slightly better.
What number 3, number 5, and number 6 on the week to start the year.
I guess
that's 18, 12, and 15 targets, and then the wheels fell off and Daniel Jones was gone. So when you look at that little stretch, he had a 3-game stretch. He would have been on pace for 255 targets.
Yeah, well, the 170 targets, you compare that to Brian Thomas only had 133 targets, but Brian Thomas finished ahead of him as the wide receiver 4. So, both these players are great. I think people might just be not high enough on Brian Thomas Jr. because he was drafted behind him. Malik Neighbors, these guys played together in college, and it was Malik Neighbors was the star, and Brian Thomas Jr. was the question mark number 2. He was the T. Higgins to the Jamar Chase.
Neighbors is a better player.
I agree. Neighbors is.
So I would rather have him.
I think they're so close, though.
Rome Odunze didn't have as many opportunities as both of those players, but he did have over 100 targets. 734 and 3. Okay. This is going to come down to, is Caleb Williams going to be the guy? Is Ben Johnson going to fix that? And will there be enough volume for Rome Odunze with DJ Moore as the one there? I mean, Brian Thomas, he's the one. Neighbors, the one. Harrison, the one.
DJ Moore, the one.
Yeah, so that is – look, I think Caleb Williams loves Rome Odunze. I think that is a go-to type of receiver for him. But you're going to need to do more.
I mean, when you say he didn't have quite as much opportunity, I take a little bit of issue with that, only because you had Brian Thomas Jr. play 79% of the snaps on the season. You had Rome Odunze play 84% of the snaps on the season. He was playing ball. Now, he didn't get as many opportunities to catch it, but we talk about all the time. Targets are an earned stat. He earned 100 targets, and some of that's going to be on Caleb Williams, on Shane Waldron, on the whole, the other wide receiver options. But he was out there as much as all these rookies. So I feel like his disappointing season might be the realist. You know what I'm saying?
I think I'll be in on Rome Odunze as the later round pick.
Mike, where is he going in best ball drafts right now?
I will find it.
I'm going to guess before.
Yeah, let's try to guess.
I got it.
I'm going to say wide receiver 31.
I started thinking 38, but I think it's going to be higher. I think 28.
Okay, you're both wrong.
Way too low.
Wide receiver 26 at the end of the fourth right now.
Okay.
But
yeah, that makes. Look, young.
I don't
but
think
this is best ball where wide receivers go very early.
Where's DJ Moore?
I mean,
if you're
DJ
talking
Moore
about fourth rounder for
wide receiver 17 at the back of the third.
Okay, I'd rather have DJ Moore in the third than Odunze.
Oh
in the fourth.
yes, I agree with that.
If they're that close, yeah, but I don't think they'll be that close in redraft at all.
Yeah, maybe.
No, I agree with that.
Home
leagues, Rome will go later, but
Rome is a physical force, and I think it's going to come down to Caleb, but I actually like him. Xavier Worthy had the great finish to the season, 59 for 638 and 6 in the regular season. They used him in an evolving role.
Yeah, he started cooking at the end.
He was the 28th pick in the draft, so it's a first-round wide receiver. Ricky Pearsall, we saw a little bit. Xavier Legette, we kept trying to start as a flex player when opportunities were there. He ended up with under 500 yards receiving as a rookie. Keon Coleman, for the 33rd pick in the draft, it was just 29 receptions.
Woof.
But for 556 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Lad McConkey was 82 for 1149.
My little lad.
Coleman and Legette those numbers are very concerning.
We've had on the Dynasty podcast, we've had the Jalen McMillan versus Keon Coleman debate. Obviously, the draft capital of Keon Coleman is great, but the breakout at the end of the year of Jalen McMillan makes you go, okay, could he actually be the better rookie wide receiver this year? Because he really had a dud from Coleman.
I think I would still be the Coleman side. Coleman missed some time injured. They brought in Amari Cooper, who was irrelevant. You kind of have some journeymen there right now, right? Mac Hollins catching passes, Curtis Samuel. It seems like Keon Coleman's sophomore season will have at least a puncher's chance of being a breakout season.
Yeah, for sure, he's got a puncher's chance.
But I mean,
like a 10. I would say like 1,010 seems doable.
Yeah, as his ceiling.
2010 would be a great year for him, I think.
I'll be curious where we end up ranking him for redraft for the
and the Buffalo Bills. I mean, what do they do at the wide receiver position? I think they will, even though they just spent a second on Coleman. I think they got to do something else too.
Yeah, I mean, you saw it with the Chiefs. They would spend every year. It's like they're trying to take their shot, whether it was trading for or bringing in Kadarius Toney or getting Sky Moore. It's like they just kept. Then Rashee Rice, then Xavier Worthy. But Xavier Worthy is the name we really need to bring up because that one is interesting. He is going to go very high, I think, in next year's draft based on what he did in the playoffs, based on being a Chief. I mean, this is a young kid who has always produced at every level, drafted in the first round, ended the season, really important to the offense. And so some people will be very excited for a leap forward. They're hoping he's the next Tyreek Hill, right? He has that speed. He has that connection, a great offensive mind and quarterback. Can he develop into that? Can he become, of all these guys, like Keon Coleman's not going to become a fantasy superstar. I don't see that happening. Jalen McMillan's not going to become a fantasy superstar. There is a route, a path at least for Xavier Worthy to level up to become one of those, wide receiver ones that you're drafting in the first or second round in the future because he's dominating on the field.
How do I simultaneously disagree and agree?
I mean, that's what Xavier Worthy is because I disagree with what I said, but I see the path.
Here's I don't see the path to that kind of a ceiling, but I see the path to him being the number one receiver for the Chiefs, even with the return of Rashee Rice. I see a world where Xavier Worthy is scoring the most fantasy points of any pass catcher on the team because of the fact that they can use him in so many different ways.
And unfortunately, I see a path where Rice comes back and Worthy is
unworthy,
inconsequential.
I don't see that anymore with Worthy.
No, I still do. Like the numbers, I know they took the shots, so maybe if a few of those the big time downfield throws actually hit this past season, you'd feel different. Because like what happened in the Super Bowl, like was that his first big catch?
No,
but I mean he was
his longest catch of the season,
54 yards.
Would 54 yards, and other than that though, it's like 20,
35.
But I'm like consistently in his game logs, it's 19 yards, 19, 14, 12, 19, 21. When he was really involved there at the end and he was making money for fantasy, long of 12, long of 19. These are not huge.
But those are
plays.
the areas where Rashee Rice is going to be very good on the interior part of the offense. I think Xavier Worthy, what you saw in the last 6 games of the season, he was on 142 target pace. It was a lot of short area stuff, but the targets just kept going up and up. I think you can use him in different ways when Rashee's out on the field, and Kelsey's he's going to disappear from this offense.
Yeah,
and Worthy was too good as a rookie.
Man, Worthy is.
So maybe
it's so strange to I don't disagree that he could become great, but to have such a wide range of outcomes where you could be a top 15 fantasy wide receiver, or you could be nothing, which is how I view him. That's very difficult to handle.
Yeah, who's not going to be nothing? Ladd McConkey.
Oh, Ladd's so good.
I mean, he finished as the wide receiver 12. Such a good route runner, reliable hands, great quarterback. I still kind of am pessimistic that he will not be the one for this team. Like, they still are looking for their wide receiver one, their alpha, to steal a Josh Jacobs line here. Like, he's a good receiver, but I think they want a proven alpha wide receiver one. But I just wanted to give another shout out to Ladd because he was so talented.
Ladd deserves it. He had a great season. You could see an offense if it's predicated on a great running game and some other peripheral wide receiver options where he could still be the fantasy leader for the team. I think that's possible there.
I mean, Keenan Allen with Herbert for the last couple of years was it's just the guy who's always in the right spot.
Mm-hmm.
He is like, you're going to create separation and catch it when I laser beam you the ball. That's what Keenan Allen did over and over and over. And that's what Ladd did, so maybe it will stick.
You
14
Amon-Ra it.
Yeah,
right.
What was Amon-Ra's yards per catch?
Let me go find him.
Because, I mean, you talk about what Keenan Allen did. Allen's last 3 seasons with the Chargers with Justin Herbert, 10.7, 11.4, 11.5. Ladd's at 14.
And Amon-Ra was at 11.
A lot of that was yards after the catch stuff.
But I mean, he also interior parts of the field was not afraid to go over the middle.
No, which he maybe should be a little bit more afraid.
He was limping a lot.
He was beat up a lot. That's the only knock I have against McConkey is he's 185 pounds.
Yeah, Amon-Ra is 200 pounds.
Fearless. And
I
think he should have a little more fear.
Yeah, let's take another
creatine.
Take a quick break, and we'll be back. Okay, so tight end wise, Brock Bowers pretty decent.
Yeah,
you guys like what he did as a rookie?
Halfway through the season, and maybe after 1 week of the season, you were like, He's the best pass-catching tight end in the National Football League. He was everything that you expected him to do, everything he was for multiple years in college. You can't give enough flowers to how talented he is. He will be the number 1 tight end drafted this year. He'll be the number 1 tight end in Dynasty. I believe he is worth as high as the 4th overall pick in startup drafts for Dynasty, a difference maker for a long time period. And so, goodness gracious, I mean, he is that guy.
I think I just finished talking about the rookie tight ends.
Yeah, we're done.
From what we saw on the field, opportunity-wise, because tight ends generally take a while to get cooking, you do have a second-round tight end in Ben.
I am the Senate.
The senator, baby.
Who, second-round tight end, you saw the tight end position succeed for Washington. Zach Ertz is a free agent and ancient. A free ancient.
Oh, a free ancient.
He's a free ancient.
That's nice.
And we need him to just – Zach Ertz, your career has been incredible. Like, he's not a Hall of Fame guy, but a truly incredible career.
Yeah, don't sully our memories.
And look, live for your family, man. Just be around and let the senator go to work.
Mike would like nothing more in this life than Ben Sinnott to take over next year in Washington. You already know the quarterback's in good shape. We had little bit of opportunity for Jatavian Sanders and Theo Johnson this year.
They showed flashes. There was a little stretch for the Carolina Panthers tight end Jatavian Sanders.
More
where
interested in Sanders
he
than
looked
Theo.
good. Well, Theo was looking good, but he went on IR, got injured. I mean, none of it. It was just like the Truth of Tight End episode. Okay, the Truth of Tight End episode was there are very, very few elite guys. Get one or just wait because the rest all suck.
I guess before Theo went down for injury, things were trending up for him.
I want to I am struggling to find the drop. Here we go.
I want to play a game.
I know we're running low on time, but I want to circle back to wide receivers.
Okay,
because tight ends suck. There are so many names at wide receiver.
I have like 5 more minutes on Ben Sinnott.
I'm sorry. We are back at wide receivers.
No.
I'm going to read you a name, and you're going to tell me if they ever have a fantasy relevant season. This is the game.
Okay. All right. This is fun.
So
fantasy relevant being like wide receiver 36 or better, right?
Top 40.
Okay. All right.
Do they ever have a
top 40 is relevant?
Yeah. Do they ever have a top 40 season for their entire careers?
Okay.
Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
Yes.
Just say the name.
No. I'm going to ease you in a little bit.
All right.
I'll ease Xavier Legette.
No.
I guess I didn't ease you in at all.
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
So you said no. Okay, you said no. Ricky Pearsall.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Jalen Polk. Second round wide receiver.
No.
Second round wide receiver Adonai Mitchell.
No.
Third round wide receiver Malachi Corley.
No.
No.
Third round wide receiver Jermaine Burton.
You had the world in your hands, dude.
Oh man.
It was there.
And then he
punted it off the bridge.
He just peed.
Is that a no?
That's a no.
All the way.
Third round wide receiver Roman Wilson of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I want to say yes. I want to say yes.
Hey, back your guys. It's fine.
I think he will. I think he'll be a relevant Christian Kirk type player someday.
I'll say no.
Luke McCaffrey for Washington.
No.
I will say probably not. No.
Fourth round wide receivers. I'll give you the names real quick. Troy Franklin.
Yeah, baby. Of course. You're darn right he will.
Now, is that a real answer?
Do you want to know why? Because it's Franklin.
Hey, you have the button?
Yeah, you're done right. Do I really believe he'll be a top 40 wide receiver? No, I do not.
Mike?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, I'm back in.
Javon Baker.
No.
Mike is the Franklin truther. Javon Baker?
No.
Okay. Malik Washington in the 6th round for Miami?
Yes.
I'm going to say no. There's at least one more name that
I like Malik.
could be a top 40 this coming season, I think.
What's that name?
Jordan Whittington for the
Yeah.
Los Angeles Rams
Yeah.
with the Tutu Atwell.
My
and
Dino team likes hearing that.
Cooper Kupp.
You
being
see why I
gone.
wanted to circle back? There's a lot. I mean, the wide receiver list, it's long.
Yeah, and to give
And a lot of those guys I read, I mean, that was all second, third, and fourth round picks.
Yeah, to give the Foot Clan kind of an early heads up, we'll have all sorts of rookie preview, not review shows, talking about the incoming draft class. But this really does seem like the pendulum swinging completely the other way. So far, it's very, very early. We don't know draft capital, and I haven't even finished scouting all the wide receivers. But the running back draft class seems very strong. I think there might be 6 guys in this class that I like better than my favorite of last year. The top is very good in this year's draft class. And so far on wide receivers, I am very meh. I mean, you got one stud that seems like a layup, and then
T-Mac.
Yeah, T-Mac looks great, and then the rest have their questions.
Yeah, Kyle just said there's only right now for mock drafts. Right now, it's 4 wide receivers in the first round, which that's low.
So that's with probably Burden, the third in the first round.
Oh yeah, Luther will be a first.
And
round
then
What a villain name.
Amika
Luther
Burden.
He's you got Lex Luthor. You got he's a burden, and then it's like he's generationally.
Yeah.
LB3.
Yeah.
Ooh,
So
I'm trying to lose about 3 LBs every day.
Every day for a month.
LB3 is the hardest one to lose. I can get down 2, but when I try to get LB3, it's right back.
Yeah, I like Matthew Golden out of Texas too. Kyle, I see that's the last name in there. So Egbuka, Burden,
Yeah,
Golden, and Tet.
the wide receiver class could prove us wrong, but right now it is.
All right, that is going to do it for today's show. We are mock drafting the top 12 picks of 2025. That's right, on Thursday. Mock drafting those first 12 names. That should be a lot of fun. Take care.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.